Brown. Welcome to this week's MFB News. Hope everybody's really well. You had a fantastic, lovely long weekend. Bit of a shame about the weather, wasn't it? But it looks like we're onto the right path again now. The sun's blazing in behind me. Sorry if it's a bit glary on the camera there. Not a huge amount I can do about that, I'm afraid, other than buy some blinds, which I will get around to. We've only lived here for nearly 3 years. There's no rushes there. Now, in terms of what we've got for you today, we're going to do our usual roundup of what's been happening with swap rates and lender pricing changes. Then we are going to take a look at what's going on with house prices and the property market more broadly. And then finally, we're just going to be sharing some thoughts with what you can expect to see with the MPC meeting next week. Okay, so first up, swap rates, and it looks like Donald Trump has been continuing with his unusual approach to tariffs over in the US, and that is continuing to have an impact on gilt rates here in the UK, which is really helping with the swap rates being relatively low compared to where they have been. So what do I mean by that? So currently, 2-year swap rates are at 3.59, 1 month ago 3.75, and 1 year ago 5.4. So sorry, 4.54. So actually, month on month, year on year, all in much better shape. In terms of 5 years, 5-year swaps 3.6%. 1 month ago 3.67, and 1 year ago just over 4%. So as we can see, swap rates are kind of down, significantly actually compared to where they have been, and this is really paving the way for lenders to bring down their rates. So how has that actually shaken out in the last week? So we've seen a little flurry of activity from the lenders. Coventry rates down by 0.15, Lend Invest to reduce their rates by 0.2, MT Finance by 0.2, TMW 0.2, Zephyr 0.15, TML 0.2, Santander 0.1, stingy lot, Principality 0.15, and Kensington 0.1 as well. So not huge amounts of rate changes in terms of the degree of the rate change, we say, so 0.2%, but actually 0.2% off a rate is still really welcome news. Now, if you have applications in with any of those lenders, I would definitely encourage you to speak to your broker or the lender if you're dealing directly, and just say, look, I think your rates have come down, can you move me on to one of the new lower ones? And generally speaking, lenders are quite amenable to doing so that could save you a bit of money. So in terms of kind of expectations for lender pricing going forwards, because we have seen swap rates continually sort of come down. If we look on a month-on-month position, it's quite significant. If we look on week, it's relatively small downward tracking. There is definitely a pathway for lenders to drop rates further. I don't think you're going to see anything big. And this is the problem, I think, psychologically. Some people are thinking, oh, I'm going to wait because I think rates are going to come down to, 3% and 2.5%. That really isn't going to happen anytime soon. When I say anytime soon, I mean probably like in the next 20 years, like a really long time. So actually, we kind of are where we are with fixed rates, but you are going to see things move around a little bit. And so actually, 0.2% off a rate is fantastic. Will they go down any further? It really does remain to be seen. For those of you who are waiting to see what happens with MPC next week, which I know lots of you are, the capital markets have already priced in a base rate reduction of 0.25%, and we'll chat a bit more about base rate later. But actually, so if base rate does come down by 0.25%, it's already priced into the fixed rates anyway, so you're not going to see any notable changes at that point. But all in all, in the round, good news, fixed rates coming down ever so slightly from lots of lenders. Okay, so UK house prices, and this is an interesting time at the moment. What we're hearing is a number of landlords who are trying to sell properties but aren't finding them moving quickly at all. And actually, I've got a property for sale in Tunbridge Wells, and while it's been on the market for quite a few weeks now, it's had some viewings but actually no buyers. So it's quite a tough selling market. So for those of you who are actually selling as well as buying at the moment, this should be really interesting for you. So the first thing to note, excuse me, is that UK house prices increased by 1.6% in the year to March 2025, up from 0.2% 1 year ago, but down from 1.9% in December 24. So house price inflation is set to slow further in coming months, while sales agreed will continue to increase. So essentially what they're saying is that house prices are going to continue to increase, but at a much slower pace, but the number of properties selling is going to pick up pace. So Zoopla expects lower base rates over 2025 to support market activity. In addition, lenders are starting to adjust how they test the affordability of new mortgages, which could boost buying power by 15 to 20%, supporting demand and sales, agreed, rather than boosting house prices. So essentially 2 things are going to support the market going forwards. First of all, lower base rate, lower mortgage costs, which is obviously going to help. But secondly, lenders are being afforded a little bit more flexibility in terms of how much they can lend borrowers on a homeowner basis. So if home buyers can borrow more money on their mortgages, this kind of paves the way for them to be able to access more properties, and therefore that will really kind of help boost the market. However, what Zoopla is saying here is that actually this kind of step up in terms of buyer affordability and lower mortgage rates won't necessarily drive up more house prices, but what it will do is facilitate more sales. I struggle to kind of disconnect the two personally, but I'm sure there's logic behind Zoopla's comments, no doubt. Now, buyer demand was running 10% above last year in the early months of 2025, ahead of the stamp duty relief the end of the stamp duty relief, in England and Northern Ireland. So essentially, in the run-up to the stamp duty cliff edge, demand was running really hot, which is no great surprise. And unsurprisingly also, demand has cooled in recent weeks and is broadly in line with levels recorded 1 year ago. So we're kind of back to normal now. We haven't got this kind of false kind of environment where we have a stamp duty deadline to work to in terms of the buying market. So the weakening buyer demand is partly seasonal, also reflecting the Easter holidays, while global events and uncertainty over the economic impact of tariffs are likely to be causing hesitation among some buyers. But sales agreed are holding up 6% higher than 1 year ago. So actually, in spite of all the uncertainty, sales agreed is actually continuing to perform not badly at all. So one area of the market where there is robust growth in the number of homes is the number of homes for sale. So there were 15% more homes listed for sale in the last month compared to 1 year ago. The average estate agent currently has 34 homes for sale compared to 31 this time last year, and a low of 15 in 2022 during the pandemic boom. So actually we're seeing a kind of increase in supply of properties coming to the market. That may also be a reason why people are finding it hard to sell at the moment. There's just more competition amongst many other factors. Now, in terms of looking forwards, Zoopla expects house price growth to slow towards 1% to 1.5% in coming months, stating the market remains on track for 5% more sales in 2025, as long as sellers remain realistic on pricing. So essentially, we're not going to go backwards. Things are going to continue to increase in terms of house price inflation, but at the rate at which it's going to continue, it's going to slow right down to between 1 and 1.5%. Now, in terms of the north-south divide in house price inflation, and this continues to be a real thing. So house price inflation is starting to slow across all regions and countries of the UK, mirroring a national trend. The number of sales agreed is also higher than a year ago across all areas. Sales agreed are up by double digits in Wales, so 14%, the northwest 10%, and the northeast also 10%. House price inflation is still sitting at less than 1% across southern regions of England, where affordability pressures are at their greatest. So actually for the southern part of England, lower mortgage rates and also increase in flexibility in terms of how much people can borrow may go some way to kind of help support the southern housing market. House prices in these regions, the south, are high relative to household incomes, while the recent end of the stamp duty boost has dampened demand. In contrast, prices are rising by 2.2 to 3% across the West Midlands, northern regions, Wales and Scotland. Prices are 6% higher in Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland is having a really kind of unusual outlier moment with house prices. I wonder what's driving that. And house prices are lower in these areas, and buying a home is accessible to a greater number of households. So essentially, in the north of the country, because house prices are lower, they're more accessible to people, and therefore the property market is kind of continue to function in a much more healthy fashion. So there you go. So that's what's going on with house prices at the moment. So I still think, like I say, the prediction is that house prices are going to continue to increase. We may see a slight improvement once we see mortgage rates come down a bit and affordability improve for borrowers. But I think there is just a huge amount of uncertainty. We've talked about the tariffs and the impact that might have on people. Inflation is always at the back of people's mind, the cost of living more broadly. But also what we have going on as well is the kind of expectation that mortgage rates are going to come down. So as I alluded to earlier on, we do have people that are sort of saying, you know, oh, well, I'm kind of waiting for rates to come down to sort of 2.5%, 3%. So people are actually waiting for something that quite possibly won't happen for a very, very long time, if ever at all. So I think actually there's lots of kind of things going on here, which is really kind of just slowing down the buying market at the moment. But I do genuinely think that over the next few months, we will see things start to really pick up. Okay, now I'm sure there's lots of you who are eagerly waiting to see what the MPC do in their meeting tomorrow. So just if you're watching this video before Thursday, to let you know the kind of thoughts from the markets. So there is currently, I believe, a 100% prediction from the capital markets that base rate will come down by 0.25% on Thursday. There are some people expecting that actually you might even see a couple of members vote for a 0.5% reduction, but not enough members to make it a meaningful vote at the moment. Beyond May, the expectation is there's going to be 2 further rate cuts in 2025. So we will see base rate continue to reduce throughout the rest of this year. By how much it will really kind of reduce by remains to be seen. There's obviously a lot of things in the balance at the moment, but 0.25% reduction tomorrow is what the markets are calling. So that will be particularly good news for those of you who are on variable rates or base rate tracker mortgages. And that's everything from me this week. So I spent a lot of time kind of reading notes rather than looking at you. It's been quite a data heavy update, so apologies for that. I can't memorise all that kind of stuff. My memory's not what it used to be. But look, if you have any questions, as always, do give us a call, 0345 345 6788. Or you can email in or have a look at our website where there's always lots and lots of wonderful information to be had. Have a super week. Enjoy the glorious weekend. The weather's looking absolutely beautiful, and I will see you next time.